You already read graphs every day. A weather forecast runs time from left to right and temperature from bottom to top. A share price chart does the same, time runs across and value runs up. Written music does exactly the same thing, time runs left to right, and pitch runs from the bottom up. So the moment you see a note climbing on the page, your brain already knows what that means. It is moving higher. The moment you see notes stepping downward, you know the pitch is dropping. The visual language of music is the same visual language you have been reading on screens, in books, in newspapers, your whole life. You are not starting from nothing. You are recognizing something. The grid that music is written on is called the staff. It is 5 horizontal lines and the 4 spaces between them. Draw those 5 lines and you have built the ladder that carries every note. Each rung of the ladder, whether it is a line or a space, represents one step of the musical alphabet. The bottom rung is the lowest pitch shown, and each rung above it is one step higher. 5 lines, for spaces, 9 positions in total. That is your entire reading surface for any single system of music. Now, those 9 positions are just the starting point. Notes can also sit above the top line or below the bottom line, using short private lines called ledger lines, which extend the ladder further when needed. But the staff itself, those 5 lines, is the home territory. That is where most notes live, and that is what you learn to read first. Now watch what happens when a melody climbs. As the notes rise on the staff, the piano climbs with them. Every step up the staff is one step higher in pitch. A note that sits high on the staff sounds high. A note that sits low sounds low. There is no code to crack here. The height on the page is the height of the sound. This is the core rule of music notation, and it never changes regardless of the clef or the key or the time signature. It holds in piano music, in choral music, in orchestral scores, everywhere. The visual height of the note head on the page directly corresponds to the acoustic height of the pitch you hear. That correspondence is what makes music notation readable at a glance. Look at a melody and you can see its contour, its hills and valleys, before you have named a single note. Sight readers call this contour reading, and it is one of the most powerful tools in the whole skill set. Notes can sit in 2 positions on the staff. A note can land on a line, with the line passing right through the middle of its head. Or it can sit in a space, tucked between 2 lines. They alternate as they climb. Line, space, right up the staff. Watch this short run. The note C sits on a line. Step up to D and it moves into the space above. Step up to E and it lands on the next line. Step up to F and into the space, then G back onto a line. Every single step moves the note head up by exactly 1 position, alternating between lines and spaces all the way. That alternating pattern is what lets you count steps at a glance without stopping to think. You never have 2 lines in a row without a space between them, and you never have 2 spaces in a row without a line separating them. This is not an accident of notation, it is a direct consequence of how the musical alphabet works. The 7 letters A, B, C, D, E, F, G step 1 diatonic pitch at a time, and the lines and spaces of the staff are spaced to match those steps exactly. 1 rung per letter, alternating without exception. But here is the limitation the staff cannot overcome on its own. 5 lines and 4 spaces tell you the shape of a melody, whether it goes up or down and by how many steps. What they cannot tell you is the name of any specific note. Without something to anchor the ladder, the same note head on the same line could be any pitch at all. The staff is a relative map. It knows up from down, but it does not know which note is where. To fix that, music uses a symbol called a clef. The clef sits at the very start of every line of music, and it pins 1 line to a specific note name. Once 1 line is named, every other line and space follows automatically, because the musical alphabet steps in strict order from there. There are several clefs in use across different instruments. The clef you will see in almost all piano music, guitar music, and vocal music is the treble clef. Its distinctive swirl arrives at the start of the staff and the whole map clicks into place. One symbol, and 5 anonymous lines suddenly have names. The clef is small, it takes a second to glance at, but it carries all the information the staff needs to go from a shape diagram to a precise set of pitches. So this is where you stand. You can look at any written melody and already answer 2 questions: is it going up or down, and by roughly how many steps? That is genuine reading. The direction and the shape are yours. You are already doing something real. What comes next is the treble clef, which will name every single line and space in the upper half of the piano. Once you have those names, you will be reading real notes, on real music, straight from the page. The entire journey from here is just filling in details on a map you can already use.